Hi everyone, Charmaine here with another video, and today I'm going to show you how I customized this shirt using HTVRONT heat transfer vinyl, which I cut using my Cricut Explore Air 2. And as for the design that I made, I actually applied it onto a sweater using the regular flat iron for clothes. This was my first time working with this particular medium, so in this video I will share the journey with you. Before we get onto the video, do click subscribe, turn on notifications, and give this video a thumbs up. So let's get started. These are heat transfer vinyl. These are from HTVRONT. They specialize in heat transfer vinyl, and not just the rolls itself, but with the machines as well. Do check them out. They also lovingly gave us a special link that you can go to where you will get 30% off when you buy 3 rolls. So check out the link below. Each roll comes with instructions and other specific steps, and also recommended cutting settings depending on the machine that you're using. So these are all the 3 rolls. Thank you so much HTVRONT for sending these through. The next step is to figure out my design on this particular shirt. So this is a sweater that was gifted to me on my birthday by my uncle, and it's actually a large size, so I get that oversized fit, and it's 60% cotton and 40% polyester. So now that I have everything that I need, I just basically have to figure out how big I wanted my design to go. I have pre-prepared the design already. So I've actually already visualized that I'll be using the white vinyl for this one. But now I want the size. So basically I was just more or less trying to visualize how big I wanted the print to be. So I sort of decided that it will be about 25 centimeters wide, 25 to 28. Not super specific about it, but then we go to the design space. So I just upload my pre-made design onto the design space. So it's already in PNG, so it doesn't have the white background. And then I just select cut image. And there is no printing involved since we are using solid vinyl, and then I just upload the cut image onto the design space and set it to the size that I want. So I sort of decided to have it around 28 or 26, and then the height is at around 12 centimeters. So your vinyl will have a matte side and a glossy side, so the glossy side goes down onto the matte. So this is the next step. I am cutting the vinyl to size. So since the height of my final image is around 12-13 centimeters, I just wanted to give it a little bit of an allowance, so I cut it to 15 centimeters. As you can see, my mat is not sticky. That's why I just decided to secure it onto the mat using washi tape, but I do not recommend this. Be sure your mat is sticky so your vinyl will stay in place. So they have recommended cutting settings depending on the brand that you're using. In my case, I'm using cricut. And so the most important step here is to make sure that your image is mirrored. So that is the most important thing of all. So the cutting setting recommended on the instructions is that you set the base material to light cardstock, but I suggest that you do tiny test cuts first to see what setting works best for your machine, for the blade that you're using. So there are very many factors involved, and we all may get different results. So I recommend that you do tiny test cuts first so you won't have wastage, because this is what light cardstock did for me. So instead, I redid the whole thing, but this time I cut it on the paper setting, and the paper setting was just perfect. So spoiler alert, I did not have any weeding issues whatsoever. So after the machine cuts the entire design, we go to the next step where we weed out the negative space. I don't have those fancy tools. I just use my cutter and just some random sharp pointed objects that I have. So I removed the washi tape I used to secure the vinyl onto the mat, and then I just try to pull it from one corner and trying to rip out or take out the negative space. I was trying to be as careful as possible because I wasn't really sure if everything cut correctly, so I was working really slow because I didn't want to waste anything. And if I did rip something, I wanted it to be salvageable. But you know what? It turned out really well. The paper setting was the right setting for my cutter and the HTVRONT vinyl. So after taking out the negative space, like the big base, I go in and weed out the smaller details, the ones within the text. This part of the process is actually a bit tedious, but I don't know if you agree with me. It's sort of kind of like therapeutic, and it's so satisfying when you actually finish everything and you see your final design come to life. Now we're ready to apply the vinyl onto the shirt, and so I took some time to figure out where I wanted it exactly. So I didn't want it too low from the neckline, so I just wanted as center as possible. Once I more or less figured out that this is the area where I wanted the design to go, I then went to the ironing board because I wanted that hard surface to press the flat iron on. So the recommended iron setting is somewhere between cotton and linen, but I actually ended up using cotton, so I just did like, it's actually the max setting for this iron that I'm using, and I just put it on the cotton setting and left it to heat up. So I sort of like eyeballed the whole thing and trying to make sure that it's centered and it's skewed in the right direction that I wanted it to go. So I placed a baking paper. Actually, it says to put a Teflon sheet on top, so I'm thinking something heat resistant, so I thought baking paper makes sense. So I kept checking if anything was happening, but when I lifted up, the vinyl was still attached to the plastic sheet, so I just kept on ironing, and then I realized that the heat of the iron was actually sort of like melting the wax surface of the baking paper. So I decided to put on this cloth. It's a muslin cloth that I use for my paper making. So basically, it's just a thin sheet that I iron on just so I don't directly iron onto the plastic sheet that holds the vinyl. So I was already ironing vigorously because initially I was being a bit gentle about it and I wasn't getting any results. The text was still lifting, but then when I actually just really gave it heat, pressed down on it with all of my might, I got the results that I wanted. So after this one, see, it wasn't lifting anymore, and yeah, I left it to cool down for a minute or so before I pulled out the clear plastic that's on top of it. So I was extra careful with this whole feat, but to be honest with you, this was really, really satisfying to do. And the results, I just absolutely love how it turned out. I'm not one to pat myself on the back for things, but I think this is pretty decent for the first try. Needless to say, I am very much satisfied with the result, and this is what the sweater looks like when worn. Ta-da! So don't come after me. My hair is wet because I just got out of the shower and I needed to leave the house very soon, but I needed to film this one before I left because sunlight, daylight, I don't have artificial lighting for my videos. But yes, it turned out super nice, and needless to say, I'm looking forward to creating more projects with this material. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching, and of course for making it through till the end. I will see you in the next one. Bye!